I never imagined I'd be typing this out at 2 a.m. with my kids asleep down the hall and my wedding ring sitting in a drawer like it's radioactive. My name's Anna. I'm 38. I live in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. And up until 6 months ago, I honestly believed I had the kind of marriage people envied on Facebook. I'm a third grade teacher. Jake sells medical equipment and travels a lot. We have a 10-year-old son named Tyler who lives for baseball, and a 7-year-old daughter, Maddie, who still believes in unicorns. We have the white two-story with the red door, the minivan with the soccer stickers, the annual Disney trips, the whole postcard life. But looking back now, the cracks were everywhere if I had just let myself see them. It started the way these things always do. Small, innocent, easy to explain away. Jake and my younger sister Brooke had always been close. She's 35, never married, works as a graphic designer from her apartment 20 minutes away, and she was basically our third adult in the house. She'd show up unannounced with ice cream on Tuesdays, help me fold laundry while we watched The Office reruns, take the kids to the trampoline park when I had parent-teacher conferences. Jake called her little sis, and she called him big bro, and I thought it was sweet. My mom, Linda, used to say, "You're so lucky they get along, Anna. Not every family is like this." I nodded every time like the trusting idiot I was. The first red flag I remember was during last year's 4th of July cookout. We were in the backyard, burgers on the grill, neighbors laughing, American flags everywhere. I walked inside to grab more ketchup, and I heard Jake's voice low in the laundry room. "You can't keep texting me like that when she's right here, Brookie." I froze with my hand on the fridge door. Brookie? He only used that nickname when they were joking around as kids. I told myself it was nothing. He was probably just reminding her not to spoil the surprise gift they were planning for my birthday. I smiled, grabbed the ketchup, and went back outside pretending my stomach wasn't twisting. But the flags kept coming. Jake started taking work calls in the garage at 10 p.m. His phone would buzz, and he'd glance at it with this tiny half smile before shoving it in his pocket. Brooke suddenly needed help installing shelves in her apartment. Every single weekend, I had to chaperone field trips. My mom would call and say things like, "Honey, men need their space. Don't nag him about every little thing." I laughed it off. Jake had just closed a big hospital account. He was stressed. Brooke was lonely after her last breakup. Mom was mom. She'd always babied Brooke, always said I was the strong one who could handle anything. I pushed the doubts down so hard I almost believed they weren't there. We still had date nights, well, one every 2 months, where Jake would hold my hand across the table at Olive Garden and tell me I was the best thing that ever happened to me. Tyler would score a home run, and Jake would hoist him on his shoulders while Brooke cheered louder than anyone. Maddie would crawl into bed between us on Saturday mornings, and we'd all giggle at her sleepy bedhead. Those moments felt so real. How could anything be wrong when my daughter still called us Mommy-Daddy Sandwich? Then came the night that cracked everything open. It was a Thursday in October. I was supposed to be at a staff meeting until 8, but the principal canceled it last minute because of a pipe burst in the gym. I remember driving home thinking I'd surprise the kids with Dairy Queen blizzards. The house lights were on, Jake's truck in the driveway, Brooke's little blue Honda right behind it. Nothing unusual. She probably came over to help with Maddie's science project like she texted earlier. I grabbed the ice cream, walked in the side door humming the new Taylor Swift song on the radio. The living room was empty. The TV was off, but I heard voices in the kitchen, soft, intimate, the kind to use when no one else is supposed to hear. I set the bag down quietly and stepped closer. Jake's voice. "I swear, every time I look at her, I feel guilty, but then I look at you and I remember why I stayed all these years." Brooke's voice, shaky but certain. "She can never know the whole truth, Jake. We promised Mom." My heart literally stopped beating for a second. I felt it, this cold, heavy pause in my chest, like someone dropped an anvil on it. I stepped into the doorway, and there they were. Jake leaning against the counter, Brooke standing way too close, her hand on his arm, both of them looking at each other like they were the only two people left on Earth. They saw me at the exact same moment. Jake's face went white, Brooke's hand flew to her mouth. I don't even remember what I said first. Something like, "What the heck is going on?" My voice didn't sound like mine. It was too calm, too small. Jake started babbling. Anna, it's not, we were just talking. Brooks whispered, I'm so sorry. I dropped the Dairy Queen bag. Cookies and cream splattered across the tile floor like some sick metaphor. And that's when I noticed Jake's phone on the counter, screen still lit up with a text thread going back months. The preview line read, Can't stop thinking about last weekend in the cabin. Tell me you love me more than her. I picked up the phone before either of them could move. I scrolled. Hundreds of messages, pet names, inside jokes, plans for us time when I thought he was at sales conferences. Photos, nothing graphic, but the way they were smiling at each other in hotel selfies made my stomach turn worse than any naked picture ever could. I looked at my sister, the girl I shared a bedroom with until I was 18, the one who held my hand when Dad died, the one I defended when Mom was too hard on her. I asked the only question that mattered. How long? Brooks started crying. Since Tyler was 2. 5 years. 5 years of my life had been a lie built on their secret. Jake reached for me and I jerked away so hard I knocked over a chair. The crash woke Maddie upstairs. I heard her little voice calling, Mommy, and that sound broke me more than anything else. I told them both to get out, right then. I didn't scream, I didn't throw things. I just stood there in my own kitchen feeling like a ghost in my own house, while the man I loved and the sister I trusted walked past me with their heads down. That night, I slept on the couch with both kids curled against me like they could sense the world was ending. I stared at the ceiling until sunrise, replaying every family vacation, every holiday, every time Mom said, You two are so lucky to have each other. And I realized with a sick, dawning horror that maybe Mom had known too. I didn't know how deep the betrayal went yet, but I was about to find out. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone blowing up. 42 missed calls from Jake, 19 from Brooke, 7 from my mom. I turned it off, made the kids pancakes like it was any normal Friday, drove them to school, and then sat in the empty parking lot at Kroger for 2 hours just shaking. I kept thinking, this can't be my life. People like me don't get stories like this. I finally drove to my mom's house because I needed answers, and I needed them yesterday. She lives in the same neighborhood we grew up in, the little brick ranch with the rose bushes Dad planted before he passed. When she opened the door, she already looked guilty. Her eyes were red, her hands twisting a dish towel. Anna, honey, sit down. I didn't sit. I stood in the living room where Brooke and I used to open Christmas presents, and I asked point blank, Did you know? Mom's shoulders dropped. She nodded once. Then she said the words that made the floor disappear under my feet. I helped them keep it quiet, sweetheart. For the family. I actually laughed, this broken, ugly sound that didn't belong to me. For the family? Mom, he's been sleeping with my sister for 5 years. She started crying, the big, heaving kind that makes your whole body shake. She told me everything in one long rush, like she'd been holding it in for a decade. How Jake and Brooke had feelings for each other even before he proposed to me. How Mom had sat Brooke down and said, He's stable, he'll take care of you. Anna is strong, she'll be fine. How, when the affair started, Mom had convinced Jake that leaving me would destroy the kids, so it was better to stay and keep things discreet. How she'd cover for them, telling me Jake was at work dinners when he was really at Brooks. How she'd even watched the kids overnight so they could have their weekends. I felt every emotion at once. Rage so hot my ears burned. Sadness so deep I couldn't breathe. Confusion so thick I couldn't think straight. I kept repeating, You're my mother. You're supposed to protect me. Mom kept saying, I thought I was protecting all of you. Brooke needed someone. You always landed on your feet. I left her house without hugging her. I drove straight to the park where Jake said he'd meet me if I texted. He showed up looking like he hadn't slept either. We sat on the bench by the swings, the same swings Tyler learned to pump his legs on, and he admitted everything. The affair wasn't just physical, it was emotional. deep. He said he loved us both, but in different ways. He said he stayed for the kids, but also because Mom kept telling him I'd fall apart without him. He even cried and said he was sorry 100 times. But the worst part, the part that made me want to scream, was when he said, "Brooke's pregnant, Anna, 6 weeks. We were going to tell you after the holidays." I stood up so fast the world spun. Pregnant. My sister was carrying my husband's baby while I was still wearing the necklace he gave me on our 10th anniversary. I didn't yell. I just looked at him and said, "I want a divorce, and I want full custody until we figure this out in court." Then I walked away while he called after me. That evening, I confronted Brooke at her apartment. She opened the door in pajamas, eyes swollen. I didn't go inside. I stood in the hallway and asked her why. She told me she'd always been jealous of my perfect life, how Mom had whispered for years that I got the better deal, the husband, the kids, the house, how she fell in love with Jake the night he helped her move into her first apartment and never stopped. She begged me to forgive her, said the baby needed its aunt. I left without answering. I drove home, packed 2 suitcases for me and the kids, and checked into the Holiday Inn by the highway. Tyler asked why we were having a sleepover adventure. Maddie clutched her stuffed unicorn and asked if Daddy was coming later. I lied and said Daddy had to work late again. That night, I sat on the hotel bathroom floor and cried so hard I threw up. The next day was the family meeting from hell. Mom called an emergency dinner at her house. Everyone showed up. Jake, Brooke, even my aunt from Indiana, who I hadn't seen in years. I walked in holding the kids' hands like they were life rafts. Mom tried to play peacemaker, saying we could all work through this as a family. Jake reached for Maddie and she actually pulled away. My 7-year-old sensed something was wrong and chose me. That moment almost broke me more than the cheating. Then came the twist I still can't wrap my head around. Mom stood up, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, "Anna, there's something else you need to know. Your father, before he died, he knew about Jake and Brooke too. He made me promise not to tell you because he thought it would ruin your future. He even changed the will so the house would go to Brooke's future children if anything ever happened. He said you were the survivor. She was the one who needed protecting." The room went silent. I felt like I'd been slapped by a ghost. My own father, the man I idolized, had chosen my sister over me even in death. Jake looked as shocked as I did. Brooke started sobbing again, and in that moment, something inside me snapped into crystal clarity. I stood up, looked at every single person who had lied to me for years, and said, "I'm done protecting this family. This family never protected me." I took the kids and left. Jake followed me to the car begging for one more chance. Mom called after me that I was being selfish. Brooke just stood on the porch holding her stomach like the baby was already choosing sides. That night in the hotel, I opened my laptop and started looking at apartments. I cried until there were no tears left, but underneath the pain, a tiny spark of something else was flickering, anger that felt like strength for the first time. 3 months have passed since that dinner, and I still wake up some mornings reaching for Jake before I remember he's gone. The kids ask about him every single day. Tyler drew a picture at school of our family with a big question mark where Daddy should be. Maddie sleeps with my old t-shirt because it smells like home. I've explained as gently as I can that Mommy and Daddy are taking a break because grown-ups sometimes need time to figure things out. They're too young for the full truth, but I refuse to lie the way everyone lied to me. The divorce is moving forward. Jake is paying temporary support and sees the kids every other weekend at his new apartment, the one Brooke moved into with him last month. Yes, they're together now, publicly. Facebook official with ultrasound pictures and everything. It hurts worse than I can describe, but I'm learning to sit with the hurt instead of running from it. My mom has tried to apologize exactly twice. The first time, she showed up at my new rental townhouse with a lasagna and flowers and said, "I was wrong, honey. I see that now." I let her in, listened for 20 minutes while she cried about how she thought she was doing the right thing. Then I told her I needed space, maybe years of space. The second time, she sent a letter saying she was cutting Brooke out of her life too. I haven't answered it yet. Some betrayals cut too deep to bandage quickly. The hardest part has been the loneliness. My friends rallied at first, brought wine, watched the kids so I could cry in peace, but life moves on. They have their own marriages, their own problems. I go to work, grade papers, make dinner, help with homework, read bedtime stories, then sit on the couch alone, wondering how I missed so many signs. I've started therapy, a kind woman named Dr. Patel, who never once says, "You should have known." She just listens and reminds me that trusting people you love isn't a character flaw. It's human. There have been small victories that feel huge. Tyler made the All-Star baseball team, and I was the one cheering loudest from the bleachers. Maddie lost her first tooth, and the tooth fairy left a note saying how proud she was of her. I wrote it myself and cried while doing it. I redecorated the townhouse with bright colors Brooke always hated, teal and yellow, and it feels like mine. I joined a book club for divorced moms, and last week I actually laughed out loud for the first time in months when someone told a story about her ex hiding the TV remote during arguments. Last weekend, Jake brought the kids home after his weekend and asked if we could talk. We sat on the porch steps while they played inside. He looked older, tired, regretful. He said he knows he destroyed something beautiful, and he'll spend the rest of his life making it up to the kids. He even said he still loves me in a way. Not the right way, but real. I told him I was learning to love myself in a way I never had before. We didn't hug, we didn't fight. We just sat there as co-parents for the first time, and somehow that felt like the beginning of closure. Brooke texted me yesterday, a long message about how the baby is kicking and how she hopes one day I can forgive her because we're still sisters. I read it 3 times, then deleted it without replying. Forgiveness might come someday, but it won't be on her timeline. As for me, I'm still sad some nights, still angry others, still confused about how my own mother could choose my sister's happiness over mine. But I'm also waking up with this quiet determination I've never felt. I signed up for a half marathon in the spring. I started a journal where I write one thing I'm proud of every day. I told the kids we're going to Disney again this summer, just the 3 of us, and Tyler actually smiled and said, like old times, but better, because it's our adventure now. Last night, Maddie crawled into my bed after a nightmare. She whispered, "Mommy, are you okay?" I hugged her tight and answered honestly for the first time. "I'm hurt, baby, but I'm going to be okay, and so are you, and so is your brother. We're a team now." She fell asleep on my chest, and I lay there listening to her breathe, feeling the weight of everything I lost, but also the lightness of everything I'm gaining. My family betrayed me in the worst way possible. They took my trust, my marriage, my sense of safety, but they didn't take my love for my children. They didn't take my future. I don't know how this story ends yet. Maybe I'll meet someone new who sees me as enough. Maybe I'll stay happily single and build the life I always deserved. Maybe I'll even find a way to have a civil relationship with Jake for the kids' sake. But right now, in this moment, I know one thing for certain. I survived the explosion, and I'm still standing. I'm still here, and for the first time in years, the woman in the mirror looks like someone I'm proud to be.